We all search for that spark which fuels our desire to fully engage in our lives. We look for the courage to experience moments where we can come alive instead of watching life pass us by. You're listening to the Front Row Factor, leaving fear and insecurity behind by exploring stories of top performers that are living life in the front row. Get ready to stand up, step up, and live it up with your host, John Vroman.
What's up, Front Row? Johnny V here. I have got a great show for you today. I'm talking to Peter Shankman. And before I get to his introduction and all about the show, I want to tell you about two live events that we have coming up this fall. We have our Dad's Retreat. This is a live experience in Philadelphia. You can check out that event at frontrowfactor.com/dads. So if you're out there listening and you value surrounding yourself with extraordinary men, focused on what I would consider to be one of the most important jobs that we have as dads, check out frontrowfactor.com/dads. Also, we have our speaker trainer experience in Sacramento in October. So if you're out there listening and you speak, train, or facilitate in your current line of work, or you want to do that, check out speakertrainerexperience.com for more information. All right, now on to our guest and our show. The New York Times has called Peter Shankman a public relations all-star who knows everything about new media and then some. This is a guy who has mixed together his ADHD, his creativity, his passion for adventure, and he makes it all work to his advantage and for the advantage of others. He's written books, he's an entrepreneur, he's a speaker. He's recognized worldwide for his ability to understand customer service and social media, marketing, advertising. In fact, he's best known for founding Help a Reporter Out, known as HARO, which he then sold. He's the founder of Shankminds, which is a private online entrepreneurial community with members in more than 10 countries. And he hosts an awesome podcast called Faster Than Normal, which I'm a big fan of. He's written some great books like Zombie Loyalist, Using Great Service to Create Rabid Fans. We talk about his new book that's going to be coming out in the future. And here's a guy who is an Ironman triathlete. He's a father, and he's just an awesome dude. We have an amazing chat. We talk about an experience at age 14 that would change the way he'd see the world. We talk about how he has harnessed the power of his ADHD. We get into a unique strategy that he uses for writing books and why the U.S. Customs was so interested in that process. We dig into his life philosophy and his strategies that have led to not only his biggest successes, but one of his biggest failures. We chat about why he never spends more than 8 hours in Vegas and the most important experience or life lesson that he wants his daughter to have. It's an awesome show. If you're listening with other people right now or you're on speaker, just know there are a couple of colorful words that are shared throughout. Nothing too intense. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, my face was hurting with laughter at the end. My brain was hurting because I was learning so much. But this is just an awesome guy. We have an awesome chat. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy my conversation with Peter Shankman. All right, Front Row family, I've got Peter Shankman on the line. What's up, Peter?
How's it going, man?
Dude, I'm grateful for your time this morning. I know you're a busy guy, and this is going to be a fun chat. So we met at Hal's event in Cleveland.
Correct.
And I remember my first impression was, this guy's really fun. You really had a great sense of humor and brought a lot of light to that room.
Thank you.
It was cool, man.
Yeah, I had a good time.
What's good right now? Give me the brag, dude. This is something I always ask my friends. I want to know the highlight reel.
What's good? Having a good time. Summer's fun. I am doing a lot of racing. I just did the New York City Triathlon. Did really well. Was really happy with my time. Training for half Ironman in September. And then the New York City Marathon in November. Putting on a in-person mastermind next Thursday. About 40 pretty cool people from all around the world. And just trying to spend as much time as I can with my 3-year-old. So I'm having fun.
Oh, that's great. What was the motivation behind the triathlon? Where did that begin?
I've been racing triathlons now for probably 10, 12 years. It's just sort of an outcropping of running. You know, you start running and then people like me with ADHD get bored with running. So you find other things to do. My logic has always been, why suck at one sport when I can suck at 3? So
that's awesome.
So there you go.
That's awesome. And so how does the triathlon for you now continue to serve you? In what ways does it Does it feel like it's more of a way to stay healthy, or does it challenge you emotionally still?
Well, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, definitely training for it is, I like to eat. And so training for it allows me to keep eating and not have to worry about, packing on the pounds.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, for the ADHD in me, it's great because there's always something. Oh, today I have a run. Oh, tomorrow's a bike. I got to swim on Thursday. It allows me to get my exercise in, which I have to do every day anyway, and not flake on it.
Yeah.
Because I know if I don't do it, I'll suck at the race. But more importantly, on days that I don't exercise, they're just not good days.
Exactly.
I do better if I do something physical first thing in the morning.
So you're in the city. You're in New York City.
I am.
Where do you bike? How do you get out
My
there?
long bikes are usually up the west side of the highway into New Jersey.
Got it.
What's called 9W. You go over the GW bridge, and that takes you in New Jersey. And then back in New York State, about 10 miles out of that. And on the flip side, my running is in Central Park, and my swimming is in either the pool in my building or every Friday. During the warmer months, I have a group that we meet at Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, first thing in the morning.
Nice, man. That's great. So, Peter, you've got a great story, and I've really enjoyed learning about you and all of what you've accomplished and the journey that you've been on. What part of that story do you never get tired of talking about? Because I'm sure you talk about it a lot. You've written about it. There's parts of it I'm sure you're just sick of talking about. What part do you never get tired of talking about? What's the part that it never gets old?
I guess I love talking about how I started my career, because my logic was basically, I spent my first 3 years working in America online, and I had an amazing experience. And when I left AOL and came back to New York, my first job after that was I think I lasted 2 weeks, because at AOL, we were allowed to do whatever we wanted. Then my first job after that was I have to check in and punch in, and I have an hour for lunch, and there's schedules, and it just didn't work for me. And so I said, I gotta go out on my own. I said, and my premise has always been, it is to this day, if I go on my own and I fail, I'll just get a job, right? And I love telling that story because my logic to anyone who says, oh, I want to go out on my own, but I'm scared, I can't, just do it. What's the worst thing that could happen? You'll get a job.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how long were you with AOL?
I was at AOL about 3 years back in the 90s. I helped launch the newsroom there.
So fascinating.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then life led to HARO, and then it's been a crazy journey.
It's been a pretty good ride.
Zombie Loyalists. What an awesome. How'd you come up with a name for that book, by the way?
I wanted to piss off my publisher. This great book that I could do with about customer service, and I'm going to theme it around zombies. And I just remember she looked at me. She just sort of shook her head and looked down.
Yeah, that's great.
There's this scene in Family Guy, I think, where Stephen King, they're mocking Stephen King because all his books was just so easy for him, and his publisher says, "Okay, what's your next book?" And Stephen King looks around the room and sees a lamp, and he goes, "It's about a lamp monster." Yeah. And the publisher just looks at him and says, "Okay, when can I have it?" That's sort of what it's like.
Classic. Hey, Peter, as you know, in our organization, we serve a lot of people who are fighting for their lives. And what started as this, creating a day for somebody to have this front row experience soon became a way of life. People living life in the front row is how they could show up each and every day. And as the metaphor kind of grew within our culture, it was all about moving from the back of your life to the front. And for us, that just means fully engaged, fully present. The front isn't always easy. People are throwing elbows down there. It can get a little messy, but it's where you feel most alive, when you're close to the thing that really inspires you. When you look back on your life, what do you consider to be perhaps a transformative moment or a period of time when your life really went from what we might call a spectator to a participant? And not that you've ever been a full spectator, not to assume that, but perhaps a time when you stepped up in life that was significant.
When I was 14, and this is a start, this is actually the full answer. When I was 14, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Oh, man.
And I don't tell a lot of people this story, but I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and
Yeah, I didn't know that.
spent probably about 3 months in the hospital. The basic premise was I was put on a drug called prednisone, which is a steroid, and saved my life. I was losing my sight. That's how they discovered something was wrong.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, you probably need glasses. The optometrist in 5 seconds, like, yeah, we should get him to an ophthalmologist. Ophthalmologist, like, we should get him to a pediatric neurologist. Pediatric neurologist, like, we should get him into surgery. So that was a fun few days. But from there, it became sort of 3 months of being in the hospital and then 2 years of being on steroids. And while the steroids saved my life, at age 14, steroids, pardon my French, really fuck you up.
Yeah.
Everything from 100-pound weight gain, which is primarily all water weight, to mood swings. I put my hand through my parents' car window one day. It was just, I was not me. And I came out on the other side at age 16 and alive, and well. And I didn't realize any of this at the time, but I believe that my attitude in life, which is basically, let's see what happens. Let's try it and see what happens, as opposed to shying away from anything, I think was born during those 2 years. Because the basic premise of, okay, if I die, that's going to suck. So let's do everything possible, A, not to die, and B, to keep enjoying my life, right? No one knows. I don't know what the future has. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know. I don't think any of us do. I don't know what's the other side. So what I do know is that I'm here and I have this one life. And if this is the one life, I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. And I'm not going to care what the masses say about it, what the haters think or things like that. And it's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
I mean, it took years to stop caring when people write negative shit or whatever. It's very frustrating. But at the end of the day, what matters is the life you're leading. And so for me, that sort of was a wake-up call for me. I look at it on the lines of I'm different, I'm not broken. And different is good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love when you said, let's try it and see what happens. Now, my question to you is that it seems like this gave you great perspective, right? Great perspective.
It did years later. At 14, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Exactly. Yeah. When you look back, you have that great perspective. I've often thought, man, Peter, about my life, that I had this pain in my life early on. And thank goodness for that pain, because it helped me to have the perspective that I have now. What I'm wondering is, do people need to have that pain in order to get that perspective? Is there a way, because I think about my children, right? Like, I'm so grateful for that pain that I had because of the perspective that it brought, but I don't necessarily want my children to go through that pain. I don't wish that upon them.
I don't think any parent wishes pain upon their child, but I will say this, and it's taken me a long time to become okay with saying this. I want my daughter to get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't actively encourage it, but I can't imagine being where I am right now had I not gotten hurt.
Exactly.
And you need that to grow. It's, when you work out, when you lift weights, you're hurting the muscle. You're tearing the muscle fibers so they can grow back stronger. That's pretty much the same thing. At some point, she's going to have to get her heart broken.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's going to grow back stronger. And it's going to suck and I'm going to feel horrible.
Yep. And
it's going to kill me.
Yeah.
But I want her to be able to be strong. And that there's a great, it must be a Friday because I'm quoting Butters from South Park, but do you remember there's an episode where he's really upset and he's really sad. He says this brilliant freaking thing. He says something like, he's talking to the emo kids because they try to adopt him. And he's like, I don't want to be an emo kid because you guys feel nothing. And they're like, well, that's better than being sad. He's like, no, it's not, because you're sad because something's making you sad. That means you were able to be happy at one point and now you're not. So at least you had that. But you guys feel nothing. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit, Butters is like brilliant. But
wisdom.
But yeah, wisdom. It's so smart. You want to have, you gotta have the pain, you gotta have the sadness. Hopefully, you don't have it all the time. Hopefully it comes and goes and it's not there quite often. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to change yourself and make yourself, you're the only project you can truly work on.
I love that.
I've learned that I don't have the ability to fix other people.
Yes.
All I could do is fix myself and hope that I do better every day.
You've had a good track record, man, of progress. Really exciting life that you've led. When you said, let's try it and see what happens is part of your philosophy. When has that worked for you and when hasn't that worked? What are some epic wins and epic failures that come to mind when you think of trying it and see what happens?
I had 47 shitty flights in a row where I sat next to like the guy who didn't bathe or the whatever, and then I sat next to Miss Texas.
Oh, nice.
I figured it was her turn to have a shitty flight. But
Classic.
from that, I came up with this idea in my head that I could build a website that would allow people to choose their seatmate before they get on the plane.
Yeah.
And I called it Air Introductions. And I put about 50 grand of my own money into it, and it failed miserably. That's
what a great idea, though.
It actually didn't fail miserably. It actually made money. It generated revenue. It got on all the media. I must have had like 500 media outlets cover that thing. It was awesome. The downside was the world wasn't ready for it yet, because you had not only did you have to buy your ticket and then enter your itinerary into wherever you bought your ticket, but you had to then enter your itinerary again into my thing. Had I done it today, I just would have back-ended it into Facebook's API and been done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was a little too early.
Man, that's such a cool idea.
And it was a lot of fun to do. Definitely a wake-up call, and because I learned, okay, just because I think the best lesson of that was just because you think something's a great idea, not everyone always thinks like you.
Yep, for sure.
That's a huge, huge key.
Yeah. And before we move on from that to maybe an idea that worked, that was a wild success, I want to know, what question did you ask yourself that led to the birth of that? Like, is it, how do I solve this problem? Why must I solve this problem? Have you thought about that? Like, what questions in your mind leads to the process of that idea?
I think for me, it was this 5-hour flight felt like 45 minutes. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Why? How do I do that every day?
How do I do that every day?
Yeah. And that, because I travel so much, and that was really my problem, is that, I assumed that, well, I travel so much, everyone must travel so much, everyone will want to pay for this, everyone, again, I was in my own head.
Yeah.
And if you're going to start a company, you can't be in your own head.
All right. So where have you tried this philosophy, see what happens, and it worked? I mean, it's many times. I mean, I could point to several, but
many times. I mean, this summer of 2000, I was running a PR firm, and I said, I want to get some publicity off my agency. What can we do? Well, we could hold a dinner, fuck it, let's take everyone skydiving. And I opened up a call and took 150 CEOs skydiving. It was the first time I'd ever jumped in my life. Yeah, that was awesome. The downside of that is it's kind of addictive. I now have 400 jumps.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I knew that. I remember learning that about you. 400, man. That's great.
So that becomes pretty ridiculous. But there are always positives of saying, let's see what happens, have always outweighed the negatives in my life. I mean, so many times.
For sure.
So many times.
Yeah. Where's the coolest place you've jumped?
Probably Dubai.
Oh, that's great.
Dubai was pretty awesome, as was Barcelona. Outside of Barcelona, about an hour outside of Barcelona was awesome. And then I tried to jump in Nicaragua, and the winds were too high.
Do you travel with your own gear, or do you just usually rent?
Sometimes, yeah. If I'm going somewhere where I know I'll have a couple of days at a drop zone, I'll take my own gear with me, which is always fun to just carry it on a plane. And every once in a while, someone recognizes, is that a parachute? And, depending on what kind of a mood I'm in, I'm like, yeah, they were giving him, dude, you should probably go back and get yours.
Any desire to base jump?
No, not really. I mean, I promised myself not until at least my daughter was at least 18.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I actually enjoy the free fall. I love the free fall. And the thing about base is that you only get about anywhere from 2 to 10 seconds of free fall.
Right.
I really love the free fall. The 45 seconds, the weightlessness, maybe it comes from being a fat kid, but being up in the air, you're weightless. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
I jumped tandem back in the 90s, and I'll never forget being in the plane, and I was strapped to this guy behind me, and we're climbing up in the plane, and the one guy in front of me looks at my instructor, or the guy that I'm jumping with, and he goes, "Hey man, how you doing?" And my guy yells, "I'm a little tired." And then the other guy goes, "Why is that?" He goes, "I didn't sleep last night." And then I'm like hearing this conversation happening. and so he sees the look in my eye, and the guy in front of me, he goes, "Hey man, we're just messing with you."
Yep. They do that all the time. I've had mentions, like, Mark, I can't believe they're letting you tandem again. Holy crap! After the manslaughter charge,
right, right. They tend to have a good sense of humor.
Oh, totally.
One of my best buddies growing up has like 10,000 jumps, and this is his life. What started as kind of a summertime fun activity turned into his life. Now he trains military and all sorts of fun stuff. And that's great. Peter, I want to talk for a moment about ADHD, because you've got a great podcast, Faster Than Normal. I'm fascinated by this, and I've enjoyed your show. I've enjoyed hearing perspective around this, because I feel like I resonate with it 100%. So my question to you is this: how have you learned to put your ADHD to work? And specifically, I mean, I can even get very specific here. I'm thinking about the fact that you've written books, and that requires a lot of focus, and you've built organizations and companies and ideas out that require great focus. So for somebody listening out there that's got ADHD and they're wondering, how the heck do you do this? How have you learned to create the mindset, the environment, the habits to create with that gift?
The best advice I can give you more than anything else is to know yourself. I have certain rules and regulations that I call them life rules that allow me to do things the way that work the best for me. And then there are certain things that I will not do because I know they won't work the best for me. I am very aware of who I am, what I do, how I do it. Example for that, I have a 60,000 word book due September 15th. I haven't written it yet. And the reason I haven't written it yet is because I have 2 flights to Asia in the next month. And that is where I will sit down and write my book. I will go onto the plane with my laptop and I will plug it in and I will start writing because that is how I get my work done. You have to know what works for you. My last book, Zombie Loyalists, I had 2 weeks left and I booked a flight to Tokyo. I had absolutely no reason to be in Tokyo. And I actually never went to Tokyo. I flew to Tokyo. I flew to Japan. I landed in Narita Airport.
Stop. Come on.
I went to the lounge. I wrote chapters 1 through 5 on the flight out. I landed in Narita. I went to the lounge. I had 2 espressos and took a shower. I got back on the same plane, same seat 2 hours later.
No, you didn't.
And wrote chapters 6 through 10. I landed 31 hours later with a book. I was a little tired, but I had a book written. And then I had to spend 5 hours in Homeland Security offices at Newark Airport because they never actually cleared immigration in Asia.
Come on, man.
And they were a little concerned as to what I might have been doing in Asia for 2 hours. I showed them the manuscript. I showed them then finally they actually called my editor, who confirmed that she worked for this publisher and that I was writing this book and then I'm a little weird. And the funniest part was that they put her on the phone with me after they talked to her. They said, okay, she wants to speak to you. I went, okay. I'm like, Emily, thanks so much. She goes, so when you said you were done with the book, not a problem, you were lying? Like, that's really not the major concern right now. But yeah, so that was a fun 30, 35, 36 hour experience. But at the end of the day, that's how I work.
That's amazing.
It sounds crazy, but it works for me. And so you have to know what works for you. I have, I'm a corporate keynote speaker and I go around the world giving talks. And my contract is very simple. I will speak, you will pay me, and you will pay my expenses. That's my contract, except in Las Vegas. In Las Vegas, there's a rider on the contract that says speaker does not have to be on the ground from wheels down to wheels up for more than 8 hours. Mm. And so I will take a 6 a.m. flight out of New York. I will land in Vegas at 10:30. I will do a 12:30 keynote. I'll be back on a 4 p.m. flight. And am I a gambling addict? No. Do I have a problem? No. But it's just not a good place for me. If I have a very addictive personality. And if I have to give a speech, at 8 o'clock at night, I'm not going to get home that night. And so that means I'm spending the night in Vegas. That means I have 12 hours unsupervised in Vegas. Nothing good is going to come of that. Right? I mean, will I do something stupid? Probably not. But why give myself the opportunity?
Yeah.
I quit drinking for the same reason. Have I ever done anything stupid when I'm drunk? No, except for buying domain names. I own about 400 domain names. I don't know what the fuck 90% of them mean. But, premise is it's a great line from the movie War Games. The only winning move is not to play.
Yeah. And
for me, and for people with ADD, it's sometimes easier just not to play. I have my closet. I got this when I was married. My ex-wife, when she moved in, I immediately lost 95% of all my storage space. And so I learned to minimalize. And what I know now is that my closet is filled with t-shirts, jeans, some button-down shirts, a couple of sport jackets, and 2 suits. And that's it. I don't wear sweaters. I don't wear sweater vests. I don't do any of that stuff because if I had to sit up in the morning, okay, so what should I wear? Oh, that's a pretty sweater. Laura gave me that sweater. I remember Laura. I haven't talked to her in years. God, I wonder what let me look. It's 3 hours later. I'm on Facebook. I haven't left the house.
Yeah.
I'm not dressed. I sleep in my workout clothes. And when the alarm goes off at 4 a.m, I'm out the door by 4:02. I brush my teeth and I'm gone. That's the premise of knowing yourself is what works for you and adapting your life to that. I'm actually, the book I have to write over the next couple of months is actually called Faster Than Normal. And it was optioned by Random House based on the podcast.
That's
And
great.
it's going to be a book on not only how to help people with ADHD, but how regular people, what they can learn from people with ADHD.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
How do you define it? Like somebody's out there listening and they go, I don't know if I have ADHD. I know I have a hard time focusing or I think fast, but how do you define it or how can they define it?
The best advice I can give is there's a book called Delivered from Distraction written by Ned Hallowell. It's like the ADHD Bible. Get it and take the test in there. But it's kind of one of those things, if you understand what you're doing, if you understand, why can't I do this? Why is this always a problem for me, but not this? Why is that? There are triggers that you can figure out what those are and how those work. For me, I'm very much about knowing myself and knowing what works for me and what doesn't. And I've been tested. And the best advice I can give you, go get tested. It's not hard. Sit with a psychologist for an hour. It's totally worth it.
I remember hearing you talk about this at one point, and I'm not going to be able to articulate it well enough, but it was when you realized that you were ADHD. Was it a poem that you read or a letter?
Oh, no. It was the first lines of Delivered from Distraction. Hang on. I have it. I keep it relatively close to me. Hold on. It was written by Ned Hallowell, and it says, here it is. Having ADHD makes life paradoxical. You get super focused sometimes, but also space out when you least mean to. You can radiate confidence and also feel as insecure as a cat in a kennel. You can perform at the highest level, feeling incompetent as you do so. You can be loved by many, but feel as if no one really likes you. You can absolutely, totally intend to do something and then forget to do it. You can have the greatest ideas in the world, but feel as if you can't accomplish a thing. That literally changed my life when I read it.
So powerful. How else have you learned to, I'm fascinated by environment because Peter, for us, and I've got a book coming out in November all about the front row and the philosophies that, what we've learned about living life to the fullest from those who are fighting for it. And one of the things that we know that there's three things for us that we've seen show up. It's the people in your life. We call that who's in your front row. What's around you, what surrounds you, the environment. Like at a rock concert, it's like you become a product of your environment. It's why you don't spend more than 8 hours in Vegas, right? Because we know that we become a product of our environment. And it's also the way we think about it. Like we always say, you don't always choose your seat in life, but you can always choose to have a front row experience if that's how you choose to see it. When it comes to shaping your environment, like when you said that you sleep in your workout clothes, I was like, that's awesome. That's just brilliant. I think it was Sean Aker that wrote about the 20-second rule in the Happiness Advantage, where he talked about, he noticed if something took longer than 20 seconds, that he was far less likely to do it. So if he could just make that a little bit easier. How have you shaped your environment? What are a couple other little fun ways that you've set it up for success?
It's funny because I don't mind doing things that take longer than 20 seconds if I love them.
Exactly.
So the key for me is to figure out what I love and try to do that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then things I don't love, I either outsource or, so I have a prescription for Concerta, which is an ADHD medication, and I take it, I call it my expense report medication because I hate doing expense reports.
Oh, me too.
And on the day my assistant calls and says, okay, if you don't get your expense reports in by noon, you're not going to get paid. Fine. I'll take a Concerta. I'm not anti-med. I just think that we're giving it out way too much. So for me, I use it when I need to.
Yep.
The same reason that I think you have to understand there are always going to be things you don't want to do. Mitigating them or lessening them as much as possible is really sort of the key.
Peter, what problem do you most want to solve in the world?
Wow. That just came out of nowhere.
Well, I figure this is a show about ADHD. I should I'm gonna throw some randomness in there. Figure that fits, right?
The greatest thing I'd love to solve is I'd love to find another species out there. I'd love to find another outside of our Earth. I would love to find another species because I believe that once we do that, we will stop fighting on this one.
Now you're connected to NASA, right?
I am connected to NASA. Yeah, they had an advisory council that I was on. It's disbanded, but it was a wonderful time.
That's really cool. I remember reading that and thinking, I got to ask about that.
Yeah, it was very cool stuff.
Where did that fascination begin with the other species?
I'm a Star Trek geek. Yeah, always been a Star Trek geek. And one of the basics behind Star Trek is that at some point we will be contacted by Federation of Planets to astronaut, but we're not there yet. And the fact that we're not there yet is, it's living proof that we're not there yet when you look and see what's going on in the world.
For sure. All right. Can I hit you with some more random ones?
Sure.
All right. We're just going to keep it interesting here. How important in your world is hope? Where does it show up? How does it play a role?
Hope's awesome. Being able to hope that something will come, being able to hope and believe in yourself I use hope on the premise that every single day I have the power to say this is not how the story's going to end.
Mm.
And that to me is super important.
Wow, that was powerful, man. That's great. How do you differentiate between, let's say, having hope for the future, where somebody would say, hey, listen, having hope isn't a good plan. It's all about action. It's all about what you do. But in some ways,
it is about action. But on the flip side, if you are much more inclined to act if you have hope that you can change something.
Exactly.
Right?
Well
insanity
said.
is doing the same thing over and over again without expecting different results. Well, if you can change something and you have the feeling you can, then that's what you want to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, we could end it right there, and this would be an awesome show. We're not going to, though, Peter. So don't go away. Don't go away. I know you've got things you want to do today, man. But I've got some more questions here for you. How do you celebrate? I want to talk about how you, as you go through life and you're producing and you're creating, how do you take time to celebrate? Even the small wins.
It's funny. I celebrate the same way I deal with my anger. I go for a run. I used to go out for drinks. Now I just find that exercise tends to help a lot more. I got some annoying news from one of my attorneys last night, and it wasn't so much annoying as it was that they were asking for more money, because that's what attorneys do. So I'm like, God, Dad, let's go for a run.
I saw
my brain saying, you just ran 3 hours ago. I'm like, let's go for a run again. So I ran.
That's a resourceful way of dealing with it. How about birthdays or holidays? Do you have any special traditions or celebrations that are kind of close to you or your family?
It's funny. I actually have no. I find no value in my birthday. I used to, when I turned 30, I threw a birthday party. I decided I wanted to get a sponsored birthday party. I convinced 75 companies to sponsor my birthday party.
That's significant. I should talk to you about.
It was ridiculous. But you know what? It really got it out of my system. I never need to do that again. And so my birthday is actually next week, and I'm doing nothing. It's next Saturday. It's Saturday night of all things, right?
Yeah.
I have absolutely no plans to do anything. I will probably hang out with my daughter, maybe take her to Pinkberry, and we'll sing happy birthday to me.
I don't, tell me if you could relate to this. But for me, it was like when birthdays or holidays roll around and people are like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I think more of what I do every day, because every day I do exactly what I want to do. Why would I change that?
Holidays, birthdays, things that are designed for people who don't love what they do. And it gives us something to look forward to. Oh, I can't wait for the weekend. I won't be at work. I'm like, I kind of like work.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do I want to do something different than what I would do on most days? I want to do exactly. I was explaining that to my wife.
It's funny. What does your wife do?
She raises two amazing boys. So
my ex-wife is a creative director at an ad agency. She works every day, but she doesn't work on weekends. She has a life and doesn't really understand why someone, I guess, would want to work more.
Right.
And I think that's one of the problems with being an entrepreneur and not being married to one. It's actually why I started Shank Minds, which is an online mastermind group. I have about 200 people in this group, and we're all entrepreneurs, and it's an online community for us, because the majority of us have wives, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends who don't do what we do.
Right.
And entrepreneurship is a lonely ass road.
Yeah.
If you're not with someone who does the same thing, so you need someone to talk to.
Yep.
Someone who gets it.
Yep. Absolutely. How about purpose? When it comes to feeling great purpose in your life, is it something you find? Is it something you create? Do you know what yours is? Do you think people have just one? Feel free to answer any or all of this.
Yeah, really. When I ask this, I'm going to keep asking questions. I think that my purpose is twofold. My purpose is to leave the world a little better than I found it. Mm. And to have a good time while doing that, because the two are very much connected.
Yeah.
If I'm having fun, then I'm going to do better. And if I'm doing better, I'm going to keep having fun at it.
What's the perfect day? What would be the most fun, perfect day for you?
Oh, man. I wake up super early because Indina Menzel, who's been lying next to me, has to go catch a flight. So I make her breakfast and then get her out the door. This is my fantasy, right? I can do that.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I was like, I'm not going to interrupt because I don't know where this is going.
Yeah. So
awesome.
So starts off with waking up next to Indina Menzel, but you know who she is, right?
No.
Indina Menzel was the original star of Rent, and then Wicked, and then she got super famous for the one singing "Let It Go" from Frozen.
Oh, okay, cool. I will. I'll do my homework later.
Yeah, God forbid I fall in love with a supermodel. Now I have a thing for a Broadway star. But so yeah, my perfect day. I get up super early. I go out for a great run or a bike ride or swim. I go into the office, spend several hours doing the kind of things I love. Go home after, have a great dinner with my daughter. Maybe walk over, get some Pinkberry or something like that. Hang out for a bit, put her to sleep, fall asleep myself, and figure out how I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow.
Awesome. That's great, man. I love it. What's something right now that you find yourself particularly passionate about? I mean, I would guess the answer might be the book that you've got coming out.
It's Faster Than Normal, the podcast, the book, and the mastermind group. So I'm holding an online mastermind on this coming, or an in-person mastermind this coming Thursday. About 40 people signed up for a day-long seminar. Yeah, I'd say the book and the masterminds are the two things I'm having the most fun with right now.
I'm going to move to parenting here for a second. This is top of mind for me. We have a dad's retreat in October in Philly. Our buddy Hal's going to be there. John Rulin.
Oh man, I want to go to that.
And well, dude, we'd love to have you. It's going to be a 2-day live event focused on guys who want to be amazing dads, small group. And I'm really passionate about this particular part of life. What do you think would be an experience that every child should have, or what's something every child should be privy to?
I chose the preschool my daughter's going to because of one thing they have. I mean, it's a great school. They're all great schools in New York City, but this one is actually connected to a men's homeless shelter. And one of the things they do when the kids are very young is they teach them about homelessness, and they teach them about the shelter, and they have them, so they'll cook meals, right? An activity might be these 4-year-olds are cooking meals.
That's great.
And taking them to the homeless shelter.
Amazing.
And I grew up in New York City, and I was a public school kid. And that is I believe that growing up and being a public school kid in New York was probably the greatest thing that ever could happen to me, because I learned so much about how lucky I am, even when I don't feel like I am.
Yes. And
so I want my daughter to understand that. So we recently started, she got this toy ice cream kit that it's a pretend ice cream. You can make ice cream cones and give them. And so I taught her how to charge for ice cream. So it's like, okay, Jessa, I'd like a chocolate cone. She goes, okay, that's $1. I'm like, here you go. And I'll actually give her a real $1. I'm like, now, Jessa, we have to put this in your piggy bank. And at the end of the summer, we're going to take it over to the school, and we're going to have the principal give it to the homeless shelter, and it'll help people who don't have a home.
Yeah.
This kid's 3 years old. She's like, I like that. But of course, she's my daughter. She looks at me, she goes, but after they take the money, I get the piggy bank back, right? I'm like, yes, you get your piggy bank back. But, I just want...
Good for you, man.
I don't ever want my daughter to feel entitled. I don't ever want her to feel like... I want her to stay humble. My favorite story, the day I sold Help a Reporter out, I made the announcement in D.C., came back to New York the next morning. I'm walking in my apartment. I remember walking to my apartment, I'm like, for the first time in my life, man, I started to believe my own press. Man, I'm the shit. I just sold this company. I got money in the bank. I walk in, and I had a cat at the time, a cat named Karma. She's passed away, but when I tell you Karma puked on the rug, I had a 6-foot-long entry rug. When I say Karma puked on the rug, I don't mean like she puked on one foot. You go to a football game, and they're the 100, it's like X's in the way that, she must have spent like 12 hours just going in a back and forth pattern using like GPS technology, whatever. I spent the next 3 hours on my knees. It is pretty hard to be pompous when you're on your knees for 3 hours cleaning up cat puke.
Yeah.
And I believe that was supposed to happen. I believe that was the universe through Karma saying, hey, asshole, don't get pompous.
Reminding you.
Stay humble.
Yeah.
And so I want my daughter to know.
That's cool. What are a value or two that you're grateful that either your parents or somebody as a young child, a mentor, had taught you as a kid?
My parents taught me to be kind to everything that lives. And I'm a huge proponent of animal rights and animal rescue. I work with Best Friends Animal Society very, very closely. They are probably one of the, if not the best sort of save them all shelter. They're based out of Utah, but they're all over the world. They are going for a no-kill America by 2025, and it's very, very doable.
Wow.
And that's pretty awesome. So, they have LA is up to 90% no-kill. New York is 90% no-kill. I believe that Gandhi said it, actually. He said you could tell a tremendous amount about society in which we live by how we treat our animals.
Yeah, no doubt. By the way, that's wonderful. Thank you for your work there, Peter. That's really great, man. When it comes to end of life, what are your thoughts on death? Not just specifically relating to animals, of course, but just life itself ending. Do you process that? Do you think about that?
I do. It's funny. I just had to do some paperwork with my attorney a couple weeks ago, and one of the things I had to do was my living will and my other will and all that stuff. And I'm reading a 14-page document, and I just turned to my attorney. I'm like, Jerry, you can't save some time and just write no machines, and I'll sign it.
Yeah.
Everything I do in my life, I feel like I'm very fortunate. I feel like I've had a great time. I just want to, when it's my time to go, I just want to know that I've helped. and
Yeah.
I've made it a difference.
Does it scare you? Does it motivate you?
I was just about to answer that. I was just about to answer that. I don't feel scared of death because I don't necessarily sit every day and think, okay, today I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And for Christ's sake, I'm a skydiver.
Yeah.
If I sat before every jump and thought, okay, I could die on this jump, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I trust my gear. I trust myself. I have a much better chance of being hit by a bus. I think that the only thing that would ever scare me about death was if I truly didn't live my life before it.
Right.
It's funny. I had a friend of mine say, now that you have a daughter, you're obviously going to quit skydiving, right? I go, skydiving makes me a better person. That makes me a better dad.
Right.
Why would I stop doing something that makes me a better person, a better dad? He said, well, what if her mom or someone wants it? I'm like, if someone actually forced me to give up skydiving, they obviously don't know me. And I guarantee you, with my luck, I'd give up the sport, and 2 days later, I'd get hit by a bus. And I said, you know what I would do then? I would come back and haunt the shit out of whoever made it. Like every day forever. And not even like scary haunting. Just like I would like hide your keys.
That's great.
Every night I would hide your keys.
Classic, man. Oh, Peter, I want to be respectful of your time here, and do you have time for a couple last final quick ones here?
Right.
So, sending our group off with some actions or things they can put into play, resources they could go check out. Thinking about books or documentaries. And I'm going to ask everybody to go, in September. Is that when the Faster Than Normal is released?
Faster Than Normal is actually coming out in October of 2017.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right,
but
cool.
the podcast is live. It is actually one of the top health podcasts on iTunes.
It's awesome.
You can find it at fasterthannormal.com.
Yeah, I'm a fan, so they should go check that out. What book or documentary resource would you recommend for everybody to go check out today? One of your faves.
One of my faves. What do I like watching on a regular basis? There's a book called The Blue Day Book.
The Blue Day Book?
Blue Day Book. And it's written by Trevor Grieve. And it's a small little picture book, and it's called The Blue Day Book, A Lesson in Cheering Yourself Up. It's just lots and lots of photos of animals, either doing incredibly stupid things or just looking really sad. You can't have a bad day after reading this book.
That's great.
And so I recommend that.
I didn't see that coming.
Yep. I'm also, I probably read it once a week. I'm a huge fan of anything by Eastern philosophies, Sun Tzu, Lao Tzu, things like that. So The Art of War, things like that. Not because I want to go out and fight, but because the whole premise behind all this philosophy, Eastern philosophy, was that you don't have to. The greatest thing in the free world is just listening a little more than you talk. Unfortunately, we're a society that spends all of its time. We wait for someone to stop talking, not so we can process the information, but so we can start.
That's absolutely.
And if we just shut up every once in a while, it's amazing.
Yeah. How did I do today?
You're the host. You did fine.
All right, man. Good. All right. Just checking in. All right. Fun one here. What live event would you most want to see front row? Is there a dream event for you? Concert, sporting event, theater?
Good questions. It's funny. I've gone to some great shows and really enjoyed them. I would love to. Can it be something in the past?
Yeah, sure. I mean, how about one you could still go to and past?
I wish I could have been at Leonard Bernstein conducting the Ode to Freedom, which was Beethoven's entire Ninth Symphony done when the Berlin Wall came down.
Oh, wow.
It was, I think, about 6 months after the wall came down, and it was just, to this day, it's one of the most moving performances of Beethoven's Ninth that you'll ever hear in your life, because it was done half with East Germany, half with West, and it was just...
Oh, wow.
It's just incredible. You can find it on YouTube. It's just an amazing performance, and it was one of Bernstein's last amazing conducting roles. It just... incredible stuff.
Awesome. Future. I want to know, man, in case I come across tickets, in case I have a connection.
I'm thinking. I just bid last week, actually, on going to see Huey Lewis in the News and a private meeting with him. I lost the auction, but it was for charity, so that would have been fun. I'm a huge fan of anything 80s. Always have been. Just my age. I was age 8 to 18 in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I think anything in the 80s would have been great. I wouldn't mind seeing the Mets in the World Series again in my lifetime. That would be nice.
All right, good. Awesome. Noted, brother. Noted. Hey, Peter, any final thoughts for the Front Row community here? Anything we didn't get to that you'd want to share and ask? And how can we support you and be a great community? Anything?
I'll give you one of the best lines I ever heard. It was given to me by a skydiver when I just started jumping back in 2005. I was bitching about the fact that none of my friends who live in New York understood why I want to go out to the ranch and jump, and my friends who jumped understood why I want to go back and hang out with my friends in the city. And I was bitching about the fact that, my friends in New York don't understand it. They think I'm crazy. There's old skydivers, and you want to listen to old skydivers. If they're old, that means they're not dead, and that means they've They're smart because they know how to survive. Skydive. And he looked at me and he goes, Peter, your son, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. And my head exploded.
Oh, that's great.
It was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got in my life. And I offer that to you.
That's awesome. Well, that fits well with our group. We appreciate it. Peter, I want to say thanks again, man. I know that your time is very valuable to you. We don't take it lightly, and we are better people for having been connected to you in this way. You've shared some wisdom. You were fun. You made me laugh a lot, man. I appreciate that. I hope that this is a start of a great friendship down the road. I hope I can be a great friend to you and support your biggest dreams and goals in whatever way that looks like, in the future. We'll be anticipating the book. I'm a big fan of your podcast and how you show up authentically in the world. I say this to all my friends, man, and I want to say it to you that I really believe that when you wake up and you do the things that you do, you go for the bike ride, you work on your projects, when you focus on being a great dad, you immediately have an impact on my family. Because I think this is Team Human. I think that nobody is neutral. You're either adding or taking away from it. And you're certainly somebody that's adding to the quality of our world. You're helping solve some big problems. And I thank you for making a difference directly to my family's life, man. I want to give you that gratitude and that thanks and let you know that I really appreciate you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll let you go for today. Enjoy, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, brother.
That was awesome. I hope you enjoyed that chat as much as I did. Make sure to visit Peter online at shankman.com. That's SHANKMAN.com. If you love this show, please share the love with Peter. I know he's active on Twitter. You can catch him there. Also, share this episode with somebody you think would get great value from it. I have a policy that every time I read a book or hear a podcast, see a quote, I ask who else would benefit from that, and I try to connect it to another individual who would get great value also. Hey, speaking of connecting, find me online, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at John Vroman, JONVROMAN. Would love to hear from you. Let me know, what would you like to see on future episodes? What topics, what guests? I would love to know what you love about our show and how we can make it even better for you. If you want to continue to grow with us, consider coming to one of our 2 live events we have coming up this fall. We have our Dad's Retreat in Philadelphia. You can get more information at frontrowfactor.com/dads. We also have our speaker trainer experience designed for people who want to grow as speakers, trainers, facilitators. These are individuals who may be employees but do this type of work in their current job, or they want to become full-time speakers, trainers, facilitators. For the last 8 years, I've had a blast traveling the world, sharing the Front Row message, and I want to teach other people how to do the same. So I've partnered with my buddy John Berghoff, who's one of the world's greatest facilitators and trainers. And together, we bring you the best of both of those worlds, keynoting and training. So it's a great event, speakertrainerexperience.com. Check it out. Hey, I want to thank you for the love of the Front Row Factor podcast. I love reading your reviews. If you're listening on iTunes right now, please go to frontrowfactor.com/review and let us know what you think. You can leave us a 1 through 5-star review based on how you think we're doing, and then you get a chance to write a little message. I read every single one, and I want to let you know that if you write us a review, we deeply appreciate it. It actually helps us to rank higher in iTunes, and that means more people get exposed to the show, which, as you know, means more people hear about Front Row Foundation, our charity, and then we get a chance to serve even more and more people. Speaking of the charity, if you happen to know somebody who has a life-threatening illness and you want to help create a front row experience for them, you can nominate somebody through our website at frontrowfoundation.org. And finally, if you want to connect with us online, go to frontrowfactor.com/Facebook, and you can join an online group of individuals who are committed to living life in the front row. This is a place where you get to celebrate the best that life has to offer. This is a place also where I share future guests that I'm going to be interviewing on the show. So if you want to post questions there, you absolutely can. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Until we talk again next time, keep living your life in the front row.
That's all for this episode of the Front Row Factor. To discover more simple and effective ways to lead a fearless front row life, visit frontrowfactor.com and subscribe to John's 4 Minutes in the Front Row, where he shares quick stories from real-life experiences. Thanks again for joining us today. We hope our show inspires you to live big, give big, and experience life to the fullest. See you next week on the Front Row Factor.